Hey guys, Kai. Just an update to the DBT03 deck list. Just the English update, right? Because the English set is coming out very, very soon, in just like 1 or 2 days, after some delays, unfortunately. So we're going to go through every single DBT03 deck and kind of just give you the English updated version to it. I know we had a video before that was focusing on like just preliminary builds for the Japanese scene, but we've seen a lot of deck builds go along, so we can make more refined builds for English, give you guys a better head start. Just so you know, BRO is also going to be playing in this meta, and I've tuned these decks for the English lists, so there's like less PRs. Some PRs aren't even released, so yeah, we just don't have them. We have to find different ways, and at least this will give you a good starting point if you're testing for BRO or just for like locals, to be able to jump in, tweak the deck later on for like just to what you like. But just as a starter, if you get your cards and you go, okay, how do I build this? These lists are good to go. So let's kind of start with Nirvana first. What has really changed from the previous thing? We added, there's like Hymenos. Hymenos are just really, really good. But the rest of it is just pretty much the same thing as you had before. You're running 2 Expecta now, which is, yeah, it's okay, but this is actually a flex slot. You can run other things that you want. You can run more Togashi Rashis. You can actually just run more Virenas as well. But don't underestimate Virenas. Virenas are just very nice because you can, they hit big, right? They hit big. So yeah, don't underestimate it. I think like English players like Damari as well, so you can run that too. Or you can even run things like Aruna just for a nice boost. And yeah, the draw is kind of just, you can play the draw or the front. I personally like draws. You can like fronts, but yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, the deck codes for these will be in the description below, so if you guys want to see it. Yeah, but this is all in English deck log as well. Moving on to the next one we have is Overlord. Now, Overlord, the big change really here is just bulking up his defense with Madoka. Big defensive power. It gives a 10k boost, so it's pretty nice. We're adding heaps of bulk to this deck because we're just running fronts and crits like usual. We can lower the Gojo count because we have a new on-hit guy called Ethan, that when the Vanguard attacks hit, you can retire this unit and draw a card and countercharge one. So you get a lot of countercharges there. But other than that, the rest of the deck is just pretty much bulk. Lots of defensive power. Madoka is an extra power and defense. And soul-wise, you have the new crits, kind of just soul in if you really need to, but otherwise you're just beating down like the old times, right? Eugene, what's changed here? We took out a bunch of orders, right? Orders have been removed, and we've just added more things that are just consistent retires. The biggest thing here is we've added Orlando. It's just overall nice. It comes out with for a CB that you generally have available to you. At the same time, you're making free cards, or you can make power lines that are better. So overall, it just helps the deck a lot. This is still a 3 attacker deck. Sometimes your lines are a bit weird. So just Orlando helps make them better, and then goes into soul, so that's good, and also comes out, right? So a bit of everything, but otherwise the rest of the deck is just, retires. We took out like 2 orders pretty much. One of this guy and the Blitz order, because it just doesn't really come up, just doesn't really come up. And just added like better cards, like the Triceratops that lets you high roll higher. But yeah, that is the main change to this deck. Moving on to Dark State. So the biggest thing with Bruce, I posted a very simple Bruce list before that's just like, if you're not a big brain Bruce, you can just play it. You'll probably do okay. You won't have any soul problems, because that's one of the biggest things I've seen when people play Bruce. They just get messed up with the soul quite a lot. This one is a much more competitive list. There's actually just, I've talked about every single time I talk about Bruce, there are basically 3 big lists out there, but the one thing that people have told me and asked me the most is, Kai, if you're going second as Bruce, how do you live now, right? You play against other Bruces, you auto lose. You play against a Loro, they kind of beat you up pretty badly. Bastion as well. Even if you're going first versus a Bastion, they can still pop up pretty heavily. I just don't have the defense to live. How do I do that? And one of the biggest builds that have been popping up is just the 3 grade 3 order build. Just playing this for the extra defense, like 20k shield is nothing to laugh at. You're also running a max front trigger as well, so just extra shield, right? I know a lot of players like running Eden to control the board early game, so when they get rushed they can control it. But some people just don't like to play that, don't like to commit as much early game, can't really judge resources. So the easiest way to do that is just here's a big shield guy. The biggest problem now with this build is it's running 7 orders, which can be pretty jank, but just bear in mind that 4 of them are normal orders and 3 of them are blitz orders, so it's not like you have to choose between which one you have to use. It's just one or the other. And look, if you have too much of an order, just discard them for things. and it should be fine, right? It should be fine. I guess the biggest miss is like if you Derek and see a bunch of orders. That's like the worst case scenario, but hey, you know, that's life. You can, the rest of this deck, you can still run the good stuff from before, right? You have the Leonards, you have the Protobulbs, you have the Marjorie. I know a lot of people don't like not running these because they're just good cards. Of course, you're not running Edens just because you don't have the space and you don't have the Dobers, but again, that's like a totally different build. So yeah, this is basically the Bruce list that I'm telling you guys to play because, again, a lot of people have been telling me I'm having trouble living, right? And you always want to live. Living is pretty good, right? Next, we have Barrow. Barrow, the Barrow lists have been relatively standardized so much, right? So much. They're all running Assurdas because just great defensive power. Also, it's like, you know, Ghost of Soul. They always run 2 of the new Keenly Ludley. That's what she's called. Just because, you know, nice card to call out, resets your deck, right? They ran Pandemonium Tactics. This is your soul charge card now. CB1, soul charge 4, pretty much. So yeah, the core of this deck is pretty much is all set. There's actually nothing much you can really do with it. I guess just because they're also able to fit in some Golemons, that's pretty good. I guess a change would just be you can run Supernatural Extraction instead. You soul charge less, but then you can kind of run less Golemons because you can kind of get it more. But yeah, the rest of this deck pretty much just standard. Barrow's in I guess is a decent place, but I think we're gonna see more innovations for this in the English scene, just because I don't know, the English scene likes Barrows, right? They're a huge fan of Barrows. And then last for Dark States, we have the Greedon. Greedon's just kind of in this really awkward place. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's not very competitive. It's a fun deck, but it's not a very competitive deck. I didn't put in one of the PRs. It's the grade 2 that comes out from Seoul, just because it might be hard to get up. But I know that it's out in English. So if you guys want to get that, then, you know, by all means, go get it. The build that's really been settled down for Greedon is the Time Girardi Dragon build, because it lets you go through your deck, it lets you build your soul, it lets you immediately put a Greedon into soul to get that 7 damage buffer if you really want. But yeah, you still run Gungarans just to accelerate your soul a bit. You find that this deck doesn't really, you either deck out or they don't have perfect guards, so they die, so it's kind of still good to like push soul just to like try and get to 10 ASAP, so the second swing is always very, very big. But apart from that, you have to run draws, because if you've actually played the deck, you'll see, yeah, my hand is really, really bad if I'm not hitting any draws. So we need the draw. We need Gungaram, which is pretty good, just to soul charge a bit more. Just so like your first turn, especially when you ride a Mukka, right? When you call something out, you're not calling out important pieces too. So yeah, this is pretty much the build right now, I think, that is the best in English. And then it's going to get better as set 4 gets releases. Moving on, we have Bastion. Bastion, I know in the first build, we just played this pretty much a set 2 Bastion. This time, we're focusing on a Ragdoll Bastion, which is the new kind of meta game, right? The new meta for Bastion, because it needs to go fast, it needs to go quick, it needs to go hard, it needs to trigger crit, right? So what they've pretty much done is thrown away all the defense and just running like 4 Ragreels, 4 Foul Sauce to make some big plays, and it can stand when you trigger things. You still run 3 of the order, but you cut down on like, you don't run the Kokobeel anymore, right? You just throw that in the trash. You're running just the new Sorceress, which of course it like adds more inconsistency to the deck. Normally some people run 4, I think, but a lot of people cut it down to 2 or even lower just because they want to cut down on that inconsistency. But it just allows you to Soul Blast 2 and Soul Blast 2 and Counter Charge. That's the most important part. The Soul Blast 2 is kind of heavy, but because you really cut down on a lot of other cards, and you can still generate Soul with Refluke, so it's kind of okay. But we've also included some Dark Strain. You know, Dark Strain, if you want to just pop off really early, first turn grade 3, slam it down, pop it, let's go. Combo with a Ragrill, huge amount of attacks. Pretty nice. It's actually pretty nice. But yeah, we're only running 2. I've actually seen builds where you just cut this and run more Dark Strains just to do that pop off, because the next turn should be, hopefully, is a Persona Ride. And that means you've got your Foul Sauce online as well. And because we're running this so much all-in kind of build, we're also running draws just to kind of draw into our pieces. And you can chuck them way into the trash, right, with Ragdoll. So, very aggressive build. This is actually very scary for Bruce's and Lorinol's, because they just pop off earlier, right? The moment a Bastion rides grade 3, they can start slamming, and Loro and Bruce are just kind of sitting there going, I hope I have my next turn in order to do something. But they might not if you just trigger very well, right? So, pretty nice. Actually, quite consistent, too. People kind of take Bastions along everywhere, though You know, it remains to be seen in English, because English we have way longer round structures, so that might be the death knell for a lot of Bastions going into BRO. Another deck that is actually quite good now is Hexaorb. Okay, so Hexaorb got some good things. You can see here that there is the grade. Am I missing a grade 2? Yeah, so Pentagleam is supposed to be the ride line here, but that's fine. I think everyone should know that. But we're on an Easerod Angel just because she gets your free cards. Like, free cards is good. We're running the new grade 2. So when you trigger, you can put a card into your soul, which is really nice. We were able to cut down all of the Diaglass because I found that like Diaglass just doesn't really work, right? It has a great effect, but the timing for the card is really weird. You never really want to like, you never really have the counterblast for it early game, and when you have the counterblast for it, you have better cards basically to use. So basically cut that card out. We're just putting back the old Painkiller Angel. It's just kind of nice, right? You can commit it, get some cards back, but it's still a booster. Boosters are pretty good in this. But apart from that, yeah, there's just better cards. Usually we run Fasado to just generate soul, but again, we got this new grade 2 that can kind of help us generate soul. And we also have this new card that also allows us to scry the top card of our deck. So basically we have like a lot of scries. We have a lot of scries. We go pretty early, we can attack pretty early as well. So it's pretty good. And you know, I think people underestimating Hexaorb a bit. But yeah, I think it's not bad. Just being able to like continuously search your persona ride is very nice with this new grade 1. Tetris, right? Every turn, if you're missing the Hexaorb, put it down, search, you're good to go. Of course, it's just kind of awkward with the ride line because if on the turn you ride over Pentagleam, you look at top 3 and you go, okay, there's a bunch of good triggers there, but I don't have a Hexaorb next turn. You have to choose between Tetris to get the Persona Orb next, Persona ride next turn, or just don't do anything, right? Because your triggers are just so good. So yeah, that's like the only weird part, but otherwise the rest of the deck is quite solid. Actually should be a pretty good pick, to be honest. I think a lot of people are just underestimating this deck, but it definitely can do work quite well. Okay, and then lastly we've got the joke deck, which is this Phantom Blaster Dragon. Put in some Ease Rods. I think just max out your blasters. Yeah, and pray. I guess praying is pretty good. I don't even know why I built this deck, to be honest. We're just waiting for better cards, you know, literally just waiting for better cards for Phantom Blaster Dragon. It's pretty sad, I know, but that's life. That's life, right? Moving on, we got Magnolia. So Magnolia, kind of weird. We don't have the PR in English yet, and I think it's coming out too late for it to come out, or BRO, so we're stuck trying to make this work. Price Trident solves your like soul and countercharge problems, but it does have that restriction where you need to attack multiple times. 5th battle, so if you brick, this card is actually just dead. We have the new grade 2 here that just solves all our soul issues. If your soul has no card, soul charge 2. Nice, pretty nice, great. So we can kind of more aggressively use our soul, so we still can run Elenia just to push more cards. Dominate Naru Soul Blast, that's fine now. This new card, Soul Blast, Greg, just for as a finisher, but that's fine. It's just soul, but you just otherwise just put in the goods of Stag. One Ursula is nice just to be able to move around things as you see fit, but yeah, or just to prevent the card in front from being retired by effect. Like it's okay, and we just run 4 of the Wild Intelligence because Wild Intelligence is insane. The biggest thing here is that you can kind of cut down on draws. Here we're only running 4 draw triggers because you just have better quality cards now. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. Moving on with Zorga. Zorga is actually pretty cool now. Some new innovations are pretty nice with the deck. Mainly the biggest one is like this guy, Miscreant Beating, right? Because it beats pretty hard. This is just a Dark Souls-ish character, fat guy. But yeah, well, it gets 5k for each order card in your bind zone. It scales pretty well. Second turn of grade 3, you're looking at something that's like hitting 20k already without any boosts or power gains. So it can scale pretty hard. But yeah, otherwise, this Fairy as well, Fairy of Tragic Love. I think I saw this in a Rika deck. I'm Rika, like in FRF and thing. Pretty nice idea, just a nice free way to get a card from your bind zone out of your hand. You can use it like very in emergencies, right? In emergencies if you really need it, because of course it does not interact well with this card. It's fine. It's fine. It just, you know, orders are pretty good. Order lineup, right? We're still running 3 Spiritual Condensation because it's basically just doesn't require counterblast. and 3 of the Despair, because this is it's just the best card. Literally the best card. You always want to use this every turn just to make big cards. But otherwise, we're just running 1 of literally everything else. Just nice utility on top of that, and just we're on 4 of the new dog. The dog is broken. The dog is so good. You don't need to run Ghost Chase because of this dog. It gets just like plain order to get something out and bounce your over trigger, right? Keep on doing that. Just good. The dog is insane. The dog is actually insane. Yeah, otherwise Zorga I think is just really nice deck right now. Of course it's still a 3 attacker deck, which is sad. But hopefully that kind of changes later, right? Or maybe it won't, because we've seen some of the set 4 reveals and it looks pretty bad. It looks kind of jank, right? Especially that new Triple R Dragon looks pretty jank. Lastly, you got Flagberg, right? Flagberg here is in a feels bad moment. The entire deck is so clunky. I don't know what to do, right? I pretty much gave up on this deck, no joke, because it's just like the entire deck relies on multiple cards working together. So that just adds natural inconsistency to the deck. So the way I see it is like, why not just throw in more combos together and hope for the best, right? Again, this entire ride line uses heaps of soul if you don't actually hit your ride line at the end, right? So yeah, if you don't actually hit this, you just have no soul. So you might as well run the Red Girl, Soul Charge 2. You run the Aglio and Mantis just to make power lines so something hits. Yeah, the 2 orders here just there to make something hit. Like Prize Trident sounds really good. Again, right? Makes soul, makes countercharge. But again, if you're not hitting 5 attacks, this thing is just a load of junk, right? It's just, if you brick, this is just the super brick. You know, it's just the super brick. So yeah, this deck, I don't know. It's just not very good. It definitely needs something in the next set to make it better. But if you're a huge Aqua Force fan, then go for it. Go for it. I think this is probably a better start. If you're already high rolling like this, you might as well high roll more, right? Okay, guys, for Seraph Snow, all the Seraph Snowers out there, bad times for you. The PR that we're getting, the Malachite, is not coming in time for BR. That is actually getting out like sometime in February with buying packs for set 4. So definitely not in time for set 3. What this means is that this deck gets affected quite a lot because Malachite is an insane card. Just easy prison, easy live, easy deck out kind of thing. So we have to find different ways to kind of replace that. What we're doing is we're going back to the old build of Seraph Snow, adding some more power there. But yeah, just kind of editing it a bit. So what we're doing is we still have the core of the deck. We've got the 2 turquoise, we've got the 2 rouges. What we're doing is we added 2 lemonons into the deck just for some extra oomph and like mass prisoning, right? Against a lot of decks out there. This is just, you know, board wipe pretty much. But also it gets crit, so crit is kind of like some nice pressure. On the other hand, we're also adding some Lemones, because what we're doing is we're putting back some good old orders, right? Lemone helps us get some extra resources, extra prison cards. That fills up our favorite new order, or old order, or my favorite order, which is Melting Heart, which can basically shut down an entire column if they're not careful, and if you have a lot of cards in prison. We're also running the old hand destruction order, which is the 24-hour coverage. Just because it's pretty much does the same thing except without the body of a Malachite, right? And without the deck out, but it gets them from the hand, so it's nice. It also means like not having Malachite means your early game is much more limited in what you can do, because you can just drop a Malachite early and just push. Nowadays with this, you kind of have to, you're playing a bit more slower game, which is unfortunate because you also don't have Malachite's deck out potential. But yeah, that's just the payoff for the deck. But hopefully like these additions where you're adding some more defense to it and some more like, well, going back to the old hand order can help you win games. And you can kind of just, you can plan a play around with this. You can kind of add more Lemones, take out Lemonons, or just if you don't like this order at all, then just throw it away, add more of the hand order in. Add more level 1s, grade 1s if you want, right? We just have the nulls, but then I'm running 3 bug motor. I know some people like running 4. Personally, I like 3 just because it's kind of dead after that. I'm only running 2 shovel studs, so you can up the count if you really want. And I'm just adding 1 bowl mean because I find that for a long game, just getting that extra soul and the extra counter charge is just good. To get that one more effect going off. So overall, that's basically this current build of the deck. I know a lot of the new builds run this new grade 2 that forces your opponent to prison a card from their hand and then draw a card, because that combined with Malachite is 8 maximum potential cards out of their deck, so it can go for a mill out game. but because you don't have the Malachite, there's just kind of no point running that card, you know. So yeah, just going back to a slightly more defensive order build. And again, there's also the Violet, right, that you can run instead. But it's really up to you. It's really up to you. So this is currently the build, or my build for the Seraph Snow deck. Orfist is kind of okay. I know it's definitely like heaps not popular in Japan. But the list is just pretty simple. 15k beaters here. This guy can turn into a shadow token and search for worlds. You can really lower your world count, so you can see we've loaded down to 6, because you just have a huge searcher, right? Easy searcher. And again, every order after your second one doesn't make anything new except for, like, I don't know, hand filter one, or you know, the new one just gives shadow tokens 5k when they come into play until the end of turn. But that requires soul charge too, so soul blast too, so that's pretty heavy. But yeah, otherwise everything hits 15. Everything can turn into 15. That's that. Just bash, right? Just bash. So nothing really changed there. And then the last deck we have is Gravidia, right? Gravidia gets really good in set 4. I have to say, it gets really good in set 4. In this deck, currently you're just playing it as like a kind of strange beatdown deck. You have enough to do like one big blast of big meteors. We're running 14, but after that you kind of just have to run it like Vanguard gets crit, trigger some triggers, hope for the best, and you know, you retire their field, right? Don't try to keep on blowing your load all the time, because you're gonna run out. You're gonna get tired, and you're also gonna deck out. So yeah, just you can do one big explosion, one big field wide on the turn where you just want to like pop off your opponent and make him guard. Otherwise, you know, you just be content with the crit to Vanguard, and you know, you're going back to 3 attacks. But at least you're kind of bulky as a clan. You're kind of bulky just because you get free draws from, you know, Persona riding Gravidia and getting meteors. But next set, this deck is actually pretty good. I think it's actually pretty good. I'm a huge fan of this deck next set, so I can't wait to talk about it, I guess, next week, because that's when the new set comes out. So yeah, that is pretty much all the lists. I went through it pretty quickly, literally just quick updates, quick snapshots, so that you can just go, okay, this is the list I want to play. This is what Kai said about it in a really quick manner. Let's jump in, let's do the testing and get myself ready for locals and BRO in a couple of weeks, right? So just to get you guys started, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, I'm just saying these are decks to help you out. These are not the super optimized ones, because if you want to optimize them, it is really down to you, right? It is really down to you how you want to play your deck. And you know, the certain things that I like about it, like for example, draws over fronts. Sometimes you might just go, I hate that, I want fronts, so just run the front. It's not that hard. If you want to run 4 fronts instead of 3 fronts, right, just run the 4 fronts, take out a crit, and you're good to go, right? So treat these as like a guideline, a more optimized guideline than before. But yeah, still, you guys have to do the testing to make sure your deck is like tip-top shape, happy going into tournaments, so you're happy with it, right? So okay, that's it from me. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow for top decks, this time hopefully with Kelvin, unless he randomly has to go do a COVID test. Otherwise, I'll be lonely. All right, see you guys later, guys. Bye.